አዎ መውሰድ አለበት። ተማሪ እንደመሆናችሁ መጠን ይሄንን በመጻፍ ማስታወስ መቻል አለባችሁ።
I would like every one of you to stand up first. In the memory of Jean-Jacques Dessalines and Toussaint Louverture, in the memory of Nat Turner, in the memory of Henry Sylvester Williams, in the memory of Muhammad Duse Ali, in the memory of Marcos Messiah Garvey, only one who was able to organize black people globally, in the memory of Patrice Emery Lumumba, in the memory of Huey P. Newton, the memory of Luther King Jr., the memory of Thomas Isidore Noel Sankara, in the memory of Malcolm X, in the memory of Dr. Francis Kwame Nkrumah, the High Priest of Pan-Africa, in the memory of Fred Hampton, in the memory of Stephen Biko, in the memory of Dr. John Henry Clark, in the memory of President Ahmed Seko Toure, in the memory of Dr. Ben Yusuf Chanan, in the memory of Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, in the memory of Dr. Runoko Rashid, in the memory of Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, the memory of Winnie Mandizekela Mandela, in the memory of Stephen Cochrane, in the memory of Kwame Ture, in the memory of Professor Tony Martin, in the memory of Dr. John Joseph Pombe Magufuli, in memory of Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who established Black History Month in 1926. In memory of those who did not make to the list, I greet you all.
ሁላችሁንም ሰላም ላለው
Salam nachu, what's up? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hamjambo, habari zenu, bonjour, samaksh, buenos dias, niño y niña de Africa. Bon dia. I'm so great to be here today, and I want you to have a seat. This is Black History Month.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. My name is Emmanuel Hani Paulo. You are hearing me from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and I hope you guys can hear me very well. And I appreciate for you guys to tune in today. So today we are having a program as we do every day. And before we go there, as we do, so I would like to go over a few things or cleaning up my our schedule, housekeeping a little bit so that you can get information. So I want to put some information there. I want to put some news here so that we can go from there. Now, the first thing I want to clean up here is I would like to clean up. I would like to talk about our Pan-African calendar. Today we already entered the month of March. So what do we have on Pan-African calendar? I want to go a little quickly and put this up, but it's not showing. I don't know why. So I want to show you what we have on the month of March. Pan-African calendar, yeah. So what we have on the month of March, here it is. So first we have Adwa, the Adwa Victory Day. Adwa Victory Day, which was today. So I hope each one of you guys already know that that today was the Adwa. The Adwa is the day a lot of Ethiopians, possibly, or some other Africans remember the victory of Adwa when Ethiopians kicked the butt of Italians. So that is it's been 128 years before the Adwa victory was celebrating today. And also we have Marianne Ngoubi, who was the president of Congo. Congo, I mean Congo Brazzaville. His name is Marianne Ngaumbi, was born in 1938 in the village of Ombeli. covert department in Kauyu territory to the Dominique Osero or Sosi, and his originated Kumbe. Now I don't want to read that, but he was the president of Congo Brazzaville. He was the fourth president of Congo Brazzaville, and he was assassinated. He was assassinated in 1977 on the age of 38. So that is tomorrow. We should remember him from Pan-African calendar, that a young person like this was assassinated. And somebody say maybe it's France. So that is on the March 3 or March 3rd. Now, March 17, as you can see on your screen, there is 17th March. There is Tanzania, Dr. John Joseph Pombe Magufuli, who passed away on 17th of March 2021. He's possibly the last person who were able to speak. In terms of Pan-Africa and the unity of Africa in general, but who also put first Africa. I think a lot of you guys already know about him. But also at the same time, Tanzania have lost a previous president who was the second president of Tanzania, Dr. Ali Hassan Mwinyi. He was a key figure to build and shape Tanzania. A lot of people give credit to Nyerere, but also Dr. Ali Hassan Mwinyi was a key figure because he's the one who introduced the multi-political parties in Tanzania. He was also the one who built the peace and transition from Nyerere to him and then to the next one. So he passed away 3 days ago. Tanzania is in a mourning stage for the next 7 days. So that being said, I think that's all I have for you guys in terms of Pan-African calendar and our news or cleaning up news, housekeeping news or information. So if there is anything comes in, we will definitely be able to push them to you as we go. So now, today we are having people in studio, as you can already see. Let me see how I can arrange this. As you already can see, so we have a special guest and we have Brother Eugene. Brother Eugene, are you there? Can you hear me? Okay, so yeah, I can hear him, but
yes.
Okay, very good. So yeah, and then we have our special guest. I want to give him time to introduce himself and tell us who he is and why is he here. Welcome, brother.
Greetings. First like to give you a special thanks and to the listening audience and to the Ethiopian community. I'd like to say Mr. Legalo. Also, I know the time difference where I am and where you all are. So I also like to extend Dematarachu, Salam Ta, and all the various greetings, most assuredly. Also, I feel that it's a privilege and an honor to actually be speaking on the threshold of the anniversary of the Battle of Adwa. And I give a special reverence to our revolutionary forebears and elders whose shoulders we actually stand on, to the great revolutionary Batahagos and all of the greats. I extend the greetings. For those of you who know me, I am Dr. Lee Muhammad MD, the Chief General Commander of the Revolutionary Black Panther Party. For those of you who may not be that aware or acquainted, as the Chief General Commander of the Revolutionary Panther Party, that means, that's a very serious dynamic and position. The national leader and the international leader of the Revolutionary Black Panther Party. Our international headquarters is in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and our national headquarters is in Jackson, Mississippi. Moving right along, I have, as far as my background, for those of you who know, I'm a psychologist. For those of you who don't, I am a psychologist. I specialize in trauma and PTSD, also insomnia, addictions, depression, anxiety, I have an extensive background in child psychology, family, couple slash marriage slash relationship, and also a couple other things that I really like to help and support with as well. Moving right along, and mentioning that, I cannot speak on any particular dynamic about our people and the things and issues that we face without talking about the mental colonial mindset or the colonial mentality and the mental slave mentality, or in essence, the slave mindset that we have as a people, unfortunately. When we talk about any particular things, as in revolutionary or Pan-Africanism or Black nationalism, it sometimes is very difficult when we're trying to do the work to really bring it into fruition without understanding the colonial mindset or the slave mentality we may have, unfortunately, as a result of our Holocaust. You have nation states throughout the continent of Africa who had never been under any particular type of colonization, like the great might and power of Ethiopia. However, those who are enemies of African people are very slick at what they do. So they use other methods of infiltration and colonization and colonialism and imperialism. Mostly it's through trade. In other ways, it's through their vices and forces of entertainment or their products and things of that nature. And they weigh on our minds and hearts in that way, and put in their propaganda and social engineering. A great example of this is how now in Ethiopian academia, English becomes a standard norm at most of the schools of higher learning. That is very, very dangerous, and that is a form of neocolonialism, and it puts our children and our people further into what I am speaking about, a colonial mentality. And having this colonial mentality is deep because whereas on the continent, for the most part, we know our folkways, our mores, our norms. We know our ethics and our etiquette and our ancestors and our traditions and our names and all of these great things. However, the big issue that we have is colonialism is deep in the part and process that it can be a covert thing at times. So what happens is that we may walk in our traditions, we may walk in our culture, but the mind that we have with it is alienated by another people's culture. So we are actually socially engineered in our image, in our look. We are African or Black in our image and our presentation, but our minds is disturbed and alienated by those who are against our very existence. And this is why we have it difficult. This is why when His Imperial Majesty, this is why he went through the trials and tribulations he went through. Emperor Haile Selassie, some don't refer to the great emperor as that, but I love to, and I adore his legacy. This is why the greats like Menelik and all the other greats, where the trials and tribulations come from. This is the whole issue between the Tigray and the Oromo and others in Ethiopia itself and other key places where we are at odds with each other, the Igbo and the Yoruba and all these other, even going back to where those issues was inside of Rwanda, with the Hutu and the Tutsi and what went on and goes on in the Sudan and all over the continent. It is because we have and we suffer from this colonial mindset and colonial mentality, and we carry these things on amongst ourselves, and sometimes it's by proxy of the U.S. intelligence community, by proxy of British intelligence and all the other so-called intelligence that's really ignorance that come against our people. Not to be long-winded, but I just wanted to touch this. Moving further with that, that is the problem at hand. Now, a major issue is in the diaspora. We suffer a little bit deeper. There's colonialism, there's imperialism, but we suffer from a slave mentality. What happened to us? Imagine this. Imagine being snatched up from your original land and habitation. Imagine being invaded in your indigenous habitation and then taken to what they call seasoning camps, and this is recorded, where people would beat and torture you and impose and design, engineer a behavior they want out of you. So what I coin our condition as is a traumatic Black African Holocaust disorder. What makes it different than anything that any other behavioral psychologists or any other type of sociologist or any other type of social scientist, any other type of clinical psychologist, any other type of anything dealing with the mind or the behavior or social norms of a people have diagnosed or have given a prognosis for or have determined or deduced is that this is a transgenerational and a intergenerational psychological issue. And epigenetics has proven that the effects of trauma in this particular type of way, and intergenerational, transgenerational, goes up to 14 generations. That's how deep it is. But let me, not to get too long-winded and not to digress it back to the point. So when you're dealing with us and our issues, I say obtrusive because it was imposed. See, when a person has PTSD or is traumatized, this usually happens by its happenstance. They either witnessed something or they directly experienced it, and this is the result. But it's usually not something that is well planned and well imposed. And this is what they did to us: beat us, torture us, rape us, did everything possible to humiliate us, and even at times would kill us and have masses of us watch. And we weren't allowed to cry and show empathy and feelings towards each other. And they'll say, using the word and walk like this, nigga, they'll say, talk like this, act like this, think like this, be like this. Your name is Olawale. No. Today, boy, your name is Billy. Your name is Nzinga. No, today, girl, your name is Sally. Beat us, rape us, torture us, kill us, and socially engineer us into something that's anti against ourselves. So we were thoroughly robbed of our folkways, our mores, our norms, and everything that constitute our own humanity and identity. So when we're dealing with us, talking about Pan-Africanism and Black nationalism, we must always remember this first, because a lot of times people get involved into the movement. We fight revolutions and we have nations that we put into fruition. But if the oppressor and the colonizer, the imperialist, is not removed from off of our minds, or the slave master is not removed from that, we could look like we walk, we could say what we want to say, all the citations and all the beautiful words, and be as African, as Pan-African, or Black as we claim to be. But we are still the colonial master's colonial subject, still the slave master's slave, if this is not prepared. One thing I wanted to quickly introduce, and then I'm going to, I guess, yield because I don't want to be too long-winded, is some of the plans that the Revolutionary Panther Party Ethiopian chapter have. We have our international headquarters in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, headed by a very strong revolutionary warrior, Queen Makeda, General Makeda. We, in May of 2024, which is this year, May 2024, which is a Friday through Sunday, May 26, 2024, we will be having an International Pan-African Unity Development Conference in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, plans for a renewed Africa. This is something that we have put into fruition years ago, almost 10 years ago, right? When the chapter had its start and its impetus and putting things in order. We were gonna put everything forward in 2020, then COVID came about, and just then the point is that, you know, it's some very, very powerful, pertinent things, but plan for a renewed Africa. The key goals and objectives: the end of coup d'etat, tribalism, capitalist exploitation, poverty, assassination, and foreign interest that infringes on the minds, hearts, and lives of African people at home and abroad. And the RPP's 21st Century Plan for a New Africa, originally, again, launched much years ago, as many may know. The RPP 21st Century Plan for New Africa, aka the People's 21st Century Plan for a Renewed Africa. One, uniting all African countries on an international African monetary system backed by gold resources. Stricter trade rules to prevent foreign exploitation. A United States of Africa, United States of all Africa, especially with embassies through the diaspora and throughout even Europe and the Caribbean and others. And also for those of us who understand what New Africa is. And that's a part of the subject matter as well. Reparations from all colonizers, slave traders, and new exploiters, like, for example, China and others who've now come in to be proxies of those who have been our colonial so-called masters and imperialists, so-called masters and neo-imperialists and neo-colonialists. Genocide tribunals against nations involved in our Holocaust and the African Holocaust and invasion of our lands, unity amongst so-called warring tribes and religious feuds and all that other stuff. Children and women's rights, clean water and clean air, trash and environmental hygiene initiatives, health and food programs to feed all the people of Africa, especially in the Horn of Africa. Development of Africa in the rural communities with running water and other great things, electricity throughout, and also utilizing green resources. Jobs on a national level for Africa with a minimum wage that is equal to 19 US dollars or 21 euros in the particular dynamic. Women's rights, free healthcare and free housing, and a lot of great other things, not to just get into every particular thing, but that is the plan and a part of the platform and what the Ethiopia chapter stands on in general. In essence, it's a very important thing. So at this particular time, I'm open to any questions or anything, or opening the floor for the other guests to express themselves as well.
All right. Yeah. So thank you so much for that. First of all, I want to ask you a lot of questions because a lot of people don't know about Black Panther.
Yes.
I definitely know. And since you are president of Black Panther, I have to ask you first, you need to go over the background of Black Panther Party. And then tell us the difference between Black Panther movie and Black Panther Party, because and your insights on Black Panther movie, because some people may have watched Black Panther movie, but they maybe never hear about Black Panther Party. So can you please go ahead and tell us about Black Panther and your point of view on Black Panther movie?
Yes, sir. Well, the party begins in this way, the sojourn of people of African descent in the diaspora, particularly United States of America and the Caribbean, has been one very serious. The Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey presented to us the UNIA, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, bringing us that beautiful red, black, and green flag and all the other great. We know that the flag existed previous, but the way that he gave it to us was beautiful and bountiful. And bringing us that, he put points together. He put very great dynamic points together to establish in order that we needed as a people and to help us. He was the first to really bring a sense of Pan-Africanism, of the first. Let me not remove Dr. Mondlane, who really is the documented first for Pan-Africanism and Black nationalism. Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey proliferated that approach, and he was great. So he gave us 10 dynamic points on what we needed to do collectively to be liberated as a people. And he was of the first to really lay it down in the way that he did. Then as we move further, we get into El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, Baba Wale, Malcolm X, and coming from his teacher, who was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who also had points that he put together more in the religious and spiritual way, but still it had an effect on the change of our people and our community. Malcolm taking it more to the political side of things and the scientific and empirical side of things and bringing that into another way, right? And in essence, dealing with that, Malcolm stood on a position of self-defense and us being armed. And there was a great brother by the name of Robert F. Williams, who also believed in being armed. He at one time was the leader of the NAACP, but when Black people, in particular Black women, began to be harmed by rabid racist, white men, he armed his NAACP chapter and he armed himself, and they kicked him out eventually for it, but he created what they call Negroes with guns, and he was armed, and very powerful, and he had other names for what he called himself and what he stood on, right? So moving right along, that's some of the armed history of our movement, and then the deacons for defense, and then others who were armed. I'm saying this to get to a point. So in Lowndes County, Alabama in the 1960s, there was a lot of issues going on with people of African descent. We had land, we had resources, but we didn't have any political power or autonomy or self-determination. So a great brother who actually came from Trinidad in the Caribbean, who was known at one time as Stokely Carmichael, and he evolved and his name became Kwame Ture, who's actually personally one of my mentors, where he rests in peace and may rest in power. And I don't have too many of those, but may rest in peace and rest in power and love him very dearly. He surmised that, you know, why don't we arm ourselves, you know, to protect ourselves? We were being beaten and lynched, you know, human snatched or kidnapped at the polling stations, murdered. He said, let's arm ourselves. So he popularized the armed civil rights movement. At that time, people weren't really thinking about it. He also was the one who coined the term Black Power and popularized it. Him and Baba Makusa Ricks popularized the term Black Power. That's the slogan. So basically, what he said was this. He said the Democratic Party, who at that time had a white rooster that said white power under it, and sometimes he even talked about white supremacy. He said if they got the white rooster party, he said we're going to have the Black Panther Party, and we're going to stand on Black power. And that's basically the fruition. But the phase and stage at that time for us was for autonomy and self-determination to secure the Black vote. So he traveled throughout the United States of America. He went to Berkeley University at that time. 2 Revolutionary Warrior students were in attendance. They were in a group known as the Revolutionary Action Movement at that time. That was Dr. Huey P. Newton, rest in peace, rest in power, and Bobby Seale at that particular time. They were moved by how he disseminated this arming of the movement because people wasn't really on that kind of dynamic, the arming part. They were into heavy activism, even self-defense, but the arming part was a different level. So October of that same year, the second phase started in Oakland, California. What was the difference of that stage and phase of the Black Panther Party? The difference was that you have Lowndes County, Alabama, which is rural, and the country is in the South. We have land, we got food, we got resources, just no autonomy, no self-determination. Now you got a big city like Oakland, California, where you got pig terror, police brutality. You got unemployment, you got homelessness, you got these different issues that now a paradigm has to be put into place to deal with those issues. So that phase was put in that particular dynamic, which eventually evolved into a collectivism, into a socialism, scientifically empirically designed for us, that was able to help us at that particular time. And we were armed and we were very strong. And to the point to where we even reclaimed the identity of our people to the world, because see, there was a time, and people have to really understand the influence that the United States of America has on the world. The United States of America is the world's influencer. People of African descent in America, because of just, you know, of course, being African and being, you know, melanated people, we have this rhythm and influence naturally. So we influence the world with our energy and our culture, even some deplorable culture, unfortunately, at times, like this ratchet culture and this drill culture we got that's decimating communities. But even in our ignorance, we influence the world. But they influence the heck out of the world intentionally and socially engineer and put programs out there. So our image to the world at one time was a buffoon, this buck dancing character they would have who would and step it, fetch it. The other image was an emasculated look with a conk or slick haired black man that usually they like to do the lighter skin thing with it too. And also the zoot suit wearing pimp or criminal. So we was a criminal and a buffoon to the world, or emasculated to the world as black men. The black woman image was like that of Josephine Baker or Eartha Kitt, some horror image. And also when she was in that, she was the mammy. So the only way she was to be accepted is a mammy or a whore. So the world got that from us. Either yes a boss, yes a master, criminal. We didn't have control over our imagery. So we didn't have that until the party came. When the Black Panther Party came, we bum rushed. We moved on. We rolled on our own self-determination and imagery and who we are, what we are about. So it wasn't just socialism, collectivism was also our image. Everything, we took power and we claimed and we stood up, and it was all power to the people. We were armed for all power to the people. We stood strong for all power to the people in this collective structure and our imagery. So we even had white people trying to have afros and trying to look like us. That's how strong our imagery was. The image of the black man and black woman at that time was a strong image of Angela Davis, Kathleen Cleaver, Afeni Shakur, and the black man Eldridge Cleaver, Ronald D. Jaga Pratt, and Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton and all the greats at that particular point in time, right? But what did the U.S. government do? And I'm not digressing. We're going to talk about the history, so I got to talk about it. The U.S. government came out. It was then President Richard Nixon on what he called he had a Southern strategy, number one. And within that, he had the war on drugs. So I'll break both of them down real quickly and not to digress. So in the Southern strategy, they knew they got into problems using the N-word and, you know, and just overtly attacking us, you know, colored and white section and all of that stuff. So they said, we got to be smarter now. The word, we got embarrassed. Dr. King embarrassed us to the world with it. We can't do that anymore. Now we got to be able to target them and use euphemisms, you know, substitutes where they don't even know. So instead of saying, you know, colored section and no coloreds are allowed or no niggers allowed, we're going to say it's busing. We're going to say it's housing. We're going to say it's this. We're going to create laws and say this is a felony. We're going to say you can't have guns. And we're going to do it in a way that we target them and they won't know it. And this is documented. Then he did the war on drugs, and his chief strategist, John Edelrickman, came before the world and admitted that the Nixon administration created the war on drugs to remove, exterminate, assassinate, break up, and arrest Black people in our leadership, and in particular the Black Panther Party, right? He said to not only do it, but to put drugs in our community, send operatives or agents in as dealers and influencers in our community, remove the jobs out of our community because fathers and husbands and uncles were able to pass these jobs down to sons and daughters and nephews, now no jobs, and then arrest the leaders. So Huey's arrested. The great brother who gave us Kwanzaa, a lot of people don't know much about him, but he's a good brother who started the US organization. Karanga off the streets, other leaders off the streets, Bunchy Carter killed, and all the other things they kept on doing and doing and doing and doing, take the leaders off the street. And then the U.S. government came with a program known as Operation Garden Plot through the U.S. military. They have MK Ultra, which uses music and drugs against us, but Operation Garden Plot ain't too far from that. That's why whenever you have a new music genre, they also got some chemical or psychochemical engineering with that. Like, for example, drill music is pill popping and Xannies and all that other stuff that goes along with that. Another deeper topic for another time, and not to digress, but get back on point. So what they did was this. They then, through Operation Garden Plot, that's how the U.S. military gets down on us. They use entertainment against us. We was never anything great on the big screen, so they gave us Superfly. Superfly was that now modern day zoot suit wearing slick head looking person, you know, the whole lighter skin vibe they throw out there to put black dark against light skin, all of that. And what was his theme? I gotta get mines. Pimping, selling dope, hustling, whatever you need to do to get mines. No more all power to the people, collectivism, but it's all about me, the individual. And then when the revolutionaries sat down with him, they was like, you got to pay your tithes. You know, we're trying to build a nation here. He's like, I ain't giving you shit. He cussed the revolutionary out, disrespected it. Then they came up with the movie The Mac. The Mac, the same thing. The Mac sitting down with his brother saying, don't you know to start this thing all over again? We got to get rid of the players, pimps, and prostitutes and start this over again. And the Mac was like, nah. He said, being black and poor is nothing. He got to get his own too. To heck with the community, to heck with the movement. And then we got strong again, reclaimed our image. We went through the perms with the disco and the cocaine and because they always got drugs with the music. The early hip hop with the crack and the Jerry curl and all the other stuff, and then we reclaimed our image back. I'm not getting off point. It's the top of Origins Black Panther Party, because all this go together. We reclaimed our image back at the end of the 80s, like with Public Enemy and the X-Clan, and even on MTV and other places, we were able to even disrespect white leaders, and they promoted it. But as soon as the LA riot came up, the LA rebellion, let me correct that, came up, the People's Uprising, Operation Garden Plot came back. And look this up. I'm not just talking or capping. Research this. Operation Garden Plot. They put that back into effect, and you'll see the same program came out. Now it was Dr. Dre with the Chronic, music and certain things to go with it. The CIA studied in 1920, if you take tobacco and mix it with cannabis, is a great medicinal herb. It's nothing wrong with it. It's what you do with it and how you do with it. But when you take it and mix it with tobacco, it does something different. They studied in 1920. It was called the TD study. T as in Ted, D as in Derek. The TD study by the CIA. They knew that when you put certain levels of tobacco with cannabis, it creates a different psychological level in the people. So they did that with the 40 ounces, and then they came back with the Mac. You go on that album, the Chronic album. They played a part from the Mac. It say, don't you know we got to get rid of the players, pimps, and prostitutes and start this all over again? They say, niggas, you crazy. Rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat. Tit-a-tat like that. Never hesitate to put a nigga on his back. We had Queen Latifah when she was Queen Latifah. We had Sister Soldier. We had revolutionary women. But all of a sudden, it went to that same album. They had the bees ain't bitches ain't but hoes and tricks. That's what it turned back into. And I'm not to digress, but getting back to the party. So Our origins deals with the continuity of the liberation struggle for the liberation of people of African descent and black people in America. That's the history of the Black Panther Party. And we did more than just serve the people. We also helped to change the minds and hearts of the people in our imagery. And I'm just talking about how they keep on working with that, because that's a serious thing. It's more, when you're oppressed, it's more than just somebody got shackles on your back or they're forcing you to do something. They deal with your mind and your imagery, and your image and your mind means everything. And that's why they always try to make fun of us and make fools of us and make clowns of us and buffoons of us. So that is the Black Panther Party. Now, the Black Panther movie, Marvel and the other ones got involved, and they wanted to take our theme and energy and make it into this comic type of imagery. I'm just talking about the movie and the comic book. Now, they say it was in reverence, but whatever they say, just like Spider-Man, we know come from an Anansi, the West African, dynamic when dealing with, the great power of our ancestors in that part of the world and our relatives in that part of the world, our cousins and brothers and sisters, aunties and uncles in that part of the world. But the point is that, so that is a fictional movie, and I do strongly believe, as a psychologist, that when they put the movie Black Panther out, they thought that it was just going to be entertainment. They didn't know that that was going to have the influence that it had as well on many different people. In the revolutionary movements that we have, in particular in the Black Panther Party, in the U.S. and throughout, so many people wanted to become revolutionaries at that point. So many people wanted to become Black Panthers at that point just from watching the fictional movie. But what I do like about that movie is the fact that it gives this future African-centered, dynamic and our achievements in sciences, and it exposed and explored a lot, and it showed who was an enemy to us, where it created a new phrase that came from an old phrase. We started saying colonizer and all of that stuff. They didn't like how that went down. Something strange happened to Brother Chadwick, which I think is very strange, but they do that to a lot of people. And he's no longer with us. Then they came out with the second movie. The second movie basically was really like a movie that looked like they were putting black people against what is called, quote unquote, the Latino. That's what it looked like. You know what I'm saying? They came from the water. They used that term wet with the B word that talked to refer to a lot of Mexican brothers and sisters. So that's a whole nother topic for another time, because those people have African roots as well. That's a deeper topic. The same way the English and the British brought black people to America, and the English Anglophone Caribbean like Jamaica and the Bahamas and Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados is the same way the Spaniards brought black people in what you call Latin America, Central America, all of that stuff, and the Hispanophone nations, but also the Francophone nations, the French, the Spanish, the British. So people who say, I'm Latino and I'm Hispanic, most of them are of African descent, and Nixon did that too. He called it the Hispanic strategy, where he created and coined the term Hispanic to divide divide Hispanophone speaking black people from English speaking black people in America. Before the 60s, if you was black from Puerto Rico, Cuba, any of them places, you was just black with an accent, no different than a black person from Jamaica, Haiti being black with those accents. But after the 60s, now it was a division. Then they came up with the term Latino later in the 70s with a big divide, and that's how they divide and conquer us. I hope I answered that question. It wasn't too long-winded and didn't digress too much.
No problem. So you mean that you are excited with the Black Panther movie? Me personally, I watched the movie, and when I hear that, I was expecting or hoping to see like Dr. Khalid Muhammad in there or something. Or like at least maybe some people like, like Huey Newton or something like that. Or Freddie Hampton, Unfortunately, it's not there. It does not even talk about the Lady Panthers. Actually, it does not. It's something just fiction somehow. Me personally, I did not like it. I'll be honest with you, because it's not a movemental movie. It does not create anything. It's just the idea of that there is black people who have high technology and things like that. So anyways, leave that alone. So there is another thing you said here about New Africa. What is New Africa you talk about?
Yeah, so New Africa. So let me get into this history. So in in the late 1960s, 1968, March the 29th through the 31st of 1968, a call was given coming out of the Malcolm X identity, Malcolm X doctrine, and Malcolm X society. In particular, Gaddy Obadali and Amiri Obadali, who were students of Malcolm X. And this call that was given was to all Black people throughout the United States of America, all the Black organizations. We talk even the ones that really is not like operated behind the scenes by Black people, but the faces, NAACP Core, Urban League, some of the spiritual communities, Nation of Islam, all the other different dynamics of our spiritual communities, Baptists, Christians, and everybody, Black Lanterns, Pan-African Socialists, everybody, Black Panther Party, all of our very us organization under Dr. Maulana Karanga, who became minister. Oh, I'm getting to a point. So many different, all the groups that were in grasp were asked to come together for the Black National Convention, right? And this convention was in Detroit, Michigan, to come together and let's organize under a dynamic that we all have in common. What is something that we all can agree on that we can move forward with for our people? So all the groups and organizations and those who had influence said a nation of our own. Now, how will we define ourselves? Because our people are not American. Never was that. I mean, the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 2, even to this day, still dances around, talk about that 3/5 of a human being. We were never given a plebiscite or a choice to choose how we move, how we vote, and who we want to be defined as. And they always wanted to define us, Negroes, coloreds, whatever, cones, niggas, anything that they want to throw at us, we had to accept it. We never had our choice. So what does New African mean? So let me get to this point. So the nation state dynamic was what everybody agreed to. So then actual Declaration of Independence was put together, and there were 500 people in attendance, but 99 of those signers signed that Declaration of Independence. And it was one of the 99 signers who is Baba General Rashid, who actually swore me in too as a legionnaire into the military dynamic of the Republic of New Africa. But the Republic of New Africa was actually born out of this particular dynamic. That's what we called our government. And so that became the government, right? Became very heavy because a lot of heavy hitters was involved. Matula Shakur was a part of this. Afeni Shakur was a part of this. Tupac Amaru Shakur, rest in peace, rest in power. So those three, everybody I just mentioned, especially the great Amiri Obadali, love him. Rest in peace, rest in power to everybody who's no longer here. They were involved, but the first vice president was Obadali, and the second vice president was Betty Shabazz, Malcolm X's widow. And Robert F. Williams, who I mentioned earlier, was considered the provisional president in exile. And the minister of culture was brother Dr. Maulana Karanga, who gave us Kwanzaa. He owned the US organization that the CIA and FBI put against the party in Oakland, in Southern California and other parts of California, in particular Oakland and LA and other key places. They used that against us. And this is where how the Bloods and Crips came about. And that's another topic for another time too. They removed the leaders and had the babies, doing different things, because Crip means community revolution in progress. Another topic for another time, but moving right along. So we came about with the term New Africa. So being that and this is serious, this doesn't make us better or lesser, but people of African descent and the diaspora, particularly in America and the Caribbean, we're the most unique African on the planet. Why do I say this? Because they took various tribes, like to say nation state, because they like when you say tribe, they put this image in your mind. You think of just rural people and all this other stuff. Not to say there's nothing wrong with rural, because that's beautiful too. But nation states, we were nations, and our nation still. They took various nation states from Africa. They took Mandinka, Fulani, Igbo, Akan, Yoruba, and many different people from all over the continent. Even some people forget that areas in what they call the Congo and other key places was also involved, because the Portuguese and the Spanish and the Italians was on that level. But getting back to the point, that's why Brazil has one of the largest concentrations of African outside of the continent. But getting back to the point. So these various tribes and cultures of Africa and ancestors of Africa, then blending in with the indigenous population, which we are the original melanated people here too. So blending in with that, you get all of this together. So we're not a Fulani, we're not a Mandinka, we're not Igbo, we're not Yoruba, we're not Arumu, we're not Tigra. In this particular context of saying us being the diaspora of America and me representing that side of myself, we're not that. We are a new type of African, an African who's a conglomerate of many other Africans, a new type of African, a new type of culture. And in this particular thing, we're also the only racial African because our oppression was based on our color, the color of our skin is what designated us as such. So Black Africans or New Africans, so New African defines a different type of African. So what do we mean by that? Well, you may have a system of Ifa, where it's spiritual, political, and social, and historical, and ancestral, right? Where this is talking about West African traditions, right? Where you revere the ancestors, Shango, you and give reference to Olodumare, you give reference to Oshun and Oya and Oba and all these things, and you say my ancestors, right? What in the diaspora, many can't say that. Because what if you are Yoruba and Igbo put together? And now that's a little battle. We don't want to get into that because we one love and one people regard. We got to get rid of the tribalism, but get back to the point. We can't fine tune and pinpoint. I don't care how much fake DNA test you do. We can't particularly say what tribe or nation state we came from. So we got ancestors who are not directly on the continent. Like you mentioned, Baba Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, rest in peace, rest in power. Nat Turner, Gabriel Prosser, Denmark BC, Harriet Tubman. We have ancestors who are not Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, Hajj Michael Jabaz, Malcolm X, John Henry Clark, and many others who are not directly from the continent, but from here. So what are those ancestors? They are New African ancestors. And in New African ancestry, you don't have to be a certain age to be an ancestor. You could be 15, 16, 17, 19 years old. And if you transition, you become an ancestor. Rest in peace, rest in power, and Ashe. And so in saying that and speaking on that, right? I myself, for those of you, I got to get too deep into that, but I was raised a Panther Cup. Both of my parents being Panthers of the 1960s. I was always influenced in the knowledge of the word and term New African, even going through different parts of life about New African. My first serious move in that direction was in 2004 through Cobra. Basically Cobra was started by Obadali and Brother Chukwe Lumumba. Rest in peace and rest in power to both of them, as the reparations dynamic too, because of the provisional government, there's three key things. Our own land or national territory, reparations, and a plebiscite for us. Right? And so in essence, Cobra became the reparations dynamic to back that up. So I joined in Cobra under Baba Kwame Ofo, rest in peace, rest in power to him. And then I met General Rashid 2 years after that. This was in Miami, doing revolutionary work against those who were against us. And he was like, you out here, going up against these police, you need a government to back you up. And at that time, what are you talking about? So it took me a while to really, let that sink in. And then not too long after that, in 2007, I was sworn in, as a general in the Legion. The Legionnaires, the military of the provisional government of the Republic of New Africa. From there, so what happens is that if you are in the movement, either a member or a leader of what is called a formation. So now the Black movements, the Black Panther Party, and other revolutionary organizations or movements are considered formations of the Republic of New Africa. So if you are a part of a formation and you come in that structure, then you can definitely be a part of the Legion. So that's how that whole particular thing was. And then me and a great comrade of mine who ended up being involved as well, Brother Fahim Ali, RBG, rest in peace, rest in power. He reached a point to where he became the PCC chair. His life was taken from him, assassinated. That's a deeper topic for another time. And at that point, many of us began to make key moves. At that time, I was acquainted with very strong revolutionary warrior queen, Sister Crystal Muhammad. And basically we all began to run for office. And then it was funny stuff that happened. That was 2014. I won't lie and say, it really, because this is our elders we're dealing with. And I heard a lot what people would say about what happened with the PGRNA after Baba Mary Obadali passed. He passed away. What was that? I think that was in 2012. Don't quote me on that. But after he did, things began to change because he was all about reparations. He was all about our national territory and a plebiscite. He didn't play with that, and he was standing on that. And then, in my opinion, I feel others wasn't standing on business. And for those of us who were standing on business and real, it's like certain moves went on. So moving right along, many of us began to re-engage. Finally, in 2023, we did. And there were key players that were involved who considered themselves hijacking this government, right? This is what they did. They declared martial law over the PGRNA, former President Samad, and also others involved with her Minister of Defense. They declared martial law, suspended the Constitution, and was talking about subordinating, and just in their words, at least how it sounded, making the PGRNA into like an organization versus being the government that it was. So we had to have a people's convention, as according to the Code of Umoja, which is the Constitution. It states that the people, not the government, but the people is the law, right? So we had a people's convention, and the people recalled them because they had a fraudulent election. It's another topic for another time. And the interim government was established. So I am actually the interim vice president of the Republic of New Africa, the Provisional Government of the Republic of New Africa. I'm the interim vice president of the Provisional Government of the Republic of New Africa. We actually have right now special elections, the 15th through the 17th of this month. And that's to make sure to give the people balance, to give the people an ability to vote their interests. But not to be long-winded again and digress, but that is the history of the term New African.
Okay, all right. So that's good. That sounds good. So I got a questions now. You touch many areas. So do you call yourself a Pan-Africanist?
I am a revolutionary Pan-Africanist and a revolutionary Black nationalist, yes. And I'm both.
Can you tell me few things, at least maybe 2 or 3 things Pan-Africa has done for Black people?
2 or 3 things that Pan-Africanism has done. Yes, it's helped to keep us not full and complete slaves again. By understanding our African empowerment and our African story, we're able to stay active. We're able to fight against powers and oppressors against us, because if we weren't collective and aware of our Africanism, which is through Pan-Africanism, then we would have just folded. We would have folded to neo-imperialism, neo-colonialism, and a slave mentality. The Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who's again a father of Pan-Africanism and Black nationalism, he installed in us. He said, "Africa for the African." That was number one. And he basically gave us all this great dynamic that where we were African-centered. So to be a Pan-African, you have to be African-centered. So African-centerism and African unityism and collectivism, which is the deep heart of what Pan-Africanism is to me, is the only way we're surviving today. And what it has done again is it has protected us from being totally mauled by colonialism, imperialism, neo-colonialism, and neo-imperialism, because we stay conscious as African people, and we stay united.
Talking about that, do you think that Arabs or non-Black are part of Pan-Africanism?
Do I think what about them?
Arabs, are they Pan-Africanists? Can they be part of Pan-Africanism or something? I don't know.
That's a good question. And when you say that, I gotta make sure I say this. We cannot erase Arabism, which is a form of racism like Zionism. We cannot erase the Holocaust that Arabs have had on people who identify as Africans. But I need to also speak about some of that story. First of all, what we call the Middle East is no such thing. It's separated today by a man-made ditch called the Suez Canal. That was made up. The real story, which is the real geographical fact, that's just Northeast Africa. That's number one, right? Now, the term Mideast, Near East, and Far East comes from how far you measured Britain from these other places in the world. So if you was further east, you was called the Far East. If you were narrow on the east, you were called the Near East, and if you was middle of that east, it was called the Mid East. But when you talk about Yemen and you talk about Medina and you talk about Mecca and you talk about these places, you look right over on the other side and Ethiopia and Eritrea and Somalia and Sudan, and you see the same people. And I'm not talking about Arabs, I'm talking about the indigenous people. You can't, when you look at people like Yemen, you look at people in Ethiopia, if you didn't know where people were from, you wouldn't know who they were. So let me get back to this point. Now, who is identifying themselves as an Arab today, because Arab is not a race. Arab is not really even a culture. It is the ethno-linguistic group is what Arab means. Now, the value to the ethno-linguistic people in that means that if you speak Arabic, then you are Arabic. You're part of the ethno-linguistic community, right? So I would say this, like Deuce Muhammad, he considered himself Pan-African. He considered himself on a black side of things, and Sheikh Anta Diop, he considered himself in the same particular type of context. And even Ahmed Muhammad al-Mahdi, the revolutionary Mahdi of the Sudan, he considered himself Pan-African and standing on blackness, but also understood that he had some type of Arab culture, right? So here's my point. The indigenous people of what you call Arabia, which is not even the real name of that area, that's Saudi Arabia, just came about yesterday, are black people and melanated people. But the thing about it being that it's an ethno-linguistic group, you got blonde hair, blue-eyed people who say they're Arab, and you got chocolate black people with beautiful nappy hair that say they're Arab. Now, to get into some of the religious culture of these people, they have a culture, and I'm educating them now to the racist ones who are amongst them. In their culture, in the religious traditions they have, because you can't mention that without, unfortunately, mention the prominent religion tradition, which is Al-Islam. So you can't mention that without saying that. So I'm going to just keep it 100 and keep it a buck and talk about that. When they go to rituals, they make Hajj and they go to Mecca. They kiss the black stone, right? And you even use the term, aswad, right? Hijra al-aswad, the black stone. They kiss this stone. Everybody will sometimes even trample on each other to kiss a stone. Then they go outside of Mecca, somewhere near the valley of Musdalifah, and they take stones and they stone 3 white stones, right? I ain't trying to get colorism into this thing, but I'm just talking about for them to think a little deeper too. And not only that, in the 40th Hadith, Prophet Muhammad, I got it, since I respect all of our traditions, so I'm just going to say that Prophet Muhammad was a line. Prophet Muhammad taught them, he said that if a black man come, whose skin is like coal and hair like dry raisins, he said, listen to him, because he'll be teaching you some wisdom that you do not know. And he came from a tribe called the Quraysh tribe, who was a dark-skinned tribe, and his uncles was known as the Lord of the Perfect Blackness. That was some of the title that they gave to his uncles and all the other ones, and everything else. So when, to answer your question, not to digress and get off topic, if that person happens to be a part of the culture that is Arab, and they are black people, and they identify with their African selves, of course they can be. That's like saying, because now that's culture, that's like saying, can somebody who's a Rumu say that they're African? Can somebody who is Tigray say that they're African? Can a Nigerian say that they're Africa? Because Africa is the continent. These are countries or cultures or tribes or nation states. But we can't erase the Arabism. We can't erase the racism, and we can't erase the bondage and the Holocaust that people that identify themselves as Arab have waged against people who identify as Africans, and what they do right now in Egypt. Another topic for another time.
Okay, so pretty much you think that someone who identify themselves as Arab, but they are black, they are fine to join Pan-Africanism.
Well, let me say this. Let me be clear on what I'm saying. Someone whose parents, they got documentation, wherever they're from, that say that their culture or what their tribal affiliation with happens to be Arab, their culture, but however they say that they're black and they identify with being an African, then that's different. I'm not talking about, because again, like I said, Arab and Arabic means that you are, it's not a race, it is an ethno-linguistic group where it can be lumped to your culture or your tribe. It's not a race. So I'm saying that you can't, if you are blue is black, hair is nappy, but your parents happen to be culturally coined that. And you say, nah, I identify with being an African. I'm not rocking this Arabization stuff, then that's different. But that's no different than the Tutsu and the Hutu and all that other stuff that we get into where we have fused with each other, or the Tigray and the Roma. We can't let ourselves play games and get caught up into foolishness. But that does not erase what Arabs have done to our people. But then we could get into the context of saying African, because people say that, Africanus was a European from Rome, and that's not even the real name of the continent. And we are Akubulan and the other names that we have. That's the other topics to get into. But the point is that I don't care what your culture is, that's like asking if somebody said that they was born in the UK and they are British national, and they say I'm Britain, but they're from the United States of America, and they say, because right now my passport says U.S. citizen, right? So when I go to Ethiopia, what I'm gonna say, well, I am an American citizen, I'm a U.S. national, but I am a Pan-African, I am black now. I don't say none of that. That's just documentation. I don't have any control over where my parents brought me to or took me or what paperwork I got. I have no control over that. I only got control over my race. And if I am what you would call a melanated person, if I am a person who actually happens to be black, I had no control over what people lump on me. But yeah, if you are an American national, if you are some so-called wannabe Arab cultural tribal national, or you are a British national, if you are a black person with nappy hair and you say I'm an African and black, so you are. What is the meaning of black nationalism? Black nationalism also means that no matter where you are on the face of this planet Earth, if you're black, we're all together. We equal a nation. Being African means that no matter where you are on the face of the planet Earth, if you identify with being an African, then we're an African. So that is the answer to that question, and hope. So I didn't say nothing about nobody who identified with being an Arab. If you identify with being an Arab, then you are an Arab. Stay that. If you identify with being an African and you so happen to be tribally a part of a culture that has been Arabized, then you are definitely a Pan-African. If that's the case, nobody can be that, including people in
you see on the screen what we have there, right? That's the that's the president of Egypt.
Okay.
So if he would say that he's African because he lives on motherland, will you accept him in Pan-Africanism?
I would have to know what his background is. I mean, he don't look all the way white, but I would have to. And you got people in Ethiopia who have no European background or whatever, look just like him too. And Northeast Africans kind of tend to be sometime on the lighter skin side, and West Africans tend to be on the darker side. Not to be colorism, but it's kind of like that a little bit. Different hair, curlier hair, sometimes even straighter hair, but got nothing to do with no European. That's just how we are, African people. We come in all phenotypes. I would have to know his background. If I found out that his background happened to be African, then yes. But if I found out his background comes straight out of somewhere and he's like, from somewhere that's not African, and because it's two sides to this. So let me say this now. I got to clear this part up. If you are perpetrating that you're an African because you're trying to exploit us for trade reasons, or you're trying to get some land like they had in America, the $5 Indians, I'm not for that bogus stuff at all. But if you are a revolutionary and you're really standing up and you actually do have African descent, yes, you should be considered and accepted as a Pan-African.
Another question now. Let me leave this Arab thing alone, because this is one of the things that always confusing me when it comes to Pan-Africanism. I thought it was for black people by black people, but eventually I start to see Arabs, non-black people involved. China is involved now, and you got black white people in South Africa. They call themselves Pan-Africanists. So to the point, I don't know. It become global, He started with this.
I'm not with that. I'm not saying that at all. You can't be from China unless you are a direct descendant of Africa and be Pan-African. You are a Chinese now. No, but let me tell you how funny this gets, right? But this is now. Let's say that you're from Ethiopia and you're Chinese by second or third generation, by nationality, you can say, I'm a pan-Ethiopian because your nationality is that. And then you may have grew up eating injera. Now your culture is that, and you like Burberry very well. So your culture is that, your nationality is that, but still your ancestry is Chinese. And if you could come from India, I know, they got a little thing going on in there in India. They have what they call it, masala, and they have the different spices they use and all that. And then they flip it a little bit, and now they could kind of make some injera and some Burberry and some other stuff. And they eat injera instead of eating the what they eat over there. They have the dal and the chana,
Chapati,
and chapati and the what they call that
biryani,
roti and not papadam, but the batura bread and all that other stuff they have. So they can have all of that, right? And naan bread. Naan is what I wanted to say. However, they go to Ethiopia, now they got the injera going on. They second, third generations from India. They can say that they're pan Ethiopians because that's their nation state. They now got these documents to say that, but they can never be a pan African because they don't have African descent. Africa's the continent. The nation states of the countries are the nation states of the countries. And so no, the Chinese who's in Africa, he could be a pan South African if that's his paperwork and nationality, but he couldn't be a pan African unless he has direct African descent. Now let me be clear on this though. If we got a person from China who's a revolutionary in India, and because these are people of color, I'm not saying they're supposed to exploit us, and they mean well, and they're revolutionaries. They could be revolutionaries, but they can't be Africans. Now, as far as white people is concerned, I feel that they should work amongst themselves to better themselves and let us handle our business. We need self-determination, and we don't need the negative influences, or anything that can impede on us. We do believe in all power to the people, but an African is an African, a black person is a black person. And if you're not black or African, then you cannot say that unless you can directly relate to your roots. But I'm going to say that all people of color or melanated people from that particular melanated dynamic, we have some type of international struggle and connections against white supremacy. You're meaning that the black person, the brown person, the red person, and the yellow person. Yeah, we do have a collective struggle against racism and white supremacy. But I can't go to China and tell the Chinese people because their name is their country. So it's not like they're on a continent called China. They're on a continent that you so-called, Asia, right? So let me not disrespect Asia, right? So here's the point. So I can't say I'm pan Asian, but at the same time, it's crazy because I could be born in China and say I'm a pan Chinese because by second or third generation, it started getting crazy and confusing at one point. And then you got some of us who call ourselves Asiatic black people. I ain't trying to get into that right now. But my point is that they can identify as pan South Africans, but they can't be an African because they're not of African descent. When we say African, we're talking about it is the cultural continental dynamic of the person who happens to be melanated and black. A lot of people say, well, I'm not black, I'm African. And somebody told me, I was like 19 years old. Why you say this black nationalist thing? You're black and black. What is black? That is nothing. I am an African. African is a culture and identity. Well, I'll say this to you. Culture and identity without understanding the racial dynamic means something different because like you just said, then the Chinese and the Indian and the white can do then. If it's just, the culture. No, it's more to it than that. Africa becomes the continent and the cultural basis of people of African descent who happens to be melanated people. That's the dynamic. And black nationalism just brings us to this point to where we cross all barriers that even if we're not in Africa, as long as we're black, we constitute a whole, regardless of our cultural or tribal or traditional heritages. And that's why I'm a revolutionary Pan-African and revolutionary black nationalist, because in black nationalism, we're taught that no matter where you're from, as long as you're black, you're one. Now, as far as my politics is concerned, I must talk about that. I am a scientific African socialist. I know people that scientific African socialist. What is that? Meaning that empirical African socialist. Of course, respecting Baba Kwame Nkrumah. I'm a scientific African socialist, neo-African socialism, which is a empirical dynamic of that I deduce as well. But I was raised on Marxist Leninism, and I was raised on scientific socialism. So let me explain to you by saying that people, what the hell? Oh my God, is this the Derg? No, not into that foolishness. But, but let me explain this to you. Here's the thing. The thing about it is that Karl Marx studied us, and like a lot of Europeans do, they steal from us, right? And so he took the traditions and culture of our people that he called primitive communism, and he put the word primitive to the communism and socialism, and he developed what he called scientific or pure communism, right? And so this was putting a paradigm for workers, right? A worker struggle, the proletariat versus the bourgeoisie, right? So people of African descent in the United States of America, we have two problems. We got racism, white supremacy, and slavery, and now we're in the workforce. So there's nothing wrong with taking a paradigm that came from us and being African-centered. So I'm an African-centered scientific socialist as well. And those things that he taught about workers united and all of that, I'm a African-centered dynamic of that as well. And I say it with my chest out. African-centered workers' rights, African-centered international struggle, dealing with scientific socialism and the scientific communalism and all the other empirical dynamics that come with that, including the empirical African-centered communism as well.
Okay, so let me not spend more time on this because I think we understand in one short sentence that you cannot be Pan-Africanist unless you are Black. That's number one. And then you also identify with African culture or African ancestry background. When I say Black, it has different layers, we already know. So one drop of DNA. I think that's what we can conclude on that. So now, my next question is: you mentioned about what was that? You mentioned about NAACP. What is that? Brother Eugene, are you there? I think I lost him.
Yes, I'm here. I'm coming back for it very shortly. Yeah, go ahead. I can hear you right. I can hear you.
Yeah, I think I lost him very quickly. But I was gonna ask him about NACP, so maybe I would have to wait for a little second, then I will come back to him. But so that being said, do you have anything you would like to add on what I was saying about Pan-Africanist and being non-Black? Can someone who's not Black join Pan-Africa?
Yeah, that question is certainly no. If you're not of people of African or Alkebulan or Kemet or Black origin, you cannot be a Pan-African. And Pan-Africanist comes with also the experience that our people have had in the struggle itself, coming from both a slavery and a colonization background. It is something specifically geared to we as Black people. And you may have one parent that may be of another persuasion. If you claim to, if you're a person, may say, like, if you're African and Asian and you identify with maybe even both of your cultures, and siding with the parent itself, I believe you can say, yeah, I am a Pan-Africanist. I'm a Pan-Africanist. And it's also how you identify with the culture itself. But if you identify with a Babylonian culture, it has nothing to do with the ways and how the spirituality and the actual blood lineage, DNA blood lineage that comes from African people. No, you can't say you are a Pan-Africanist. So but yeah, certainly, it's some dynamic discussion that we're having. And thank you, brothers and sisters, for tuning in. I'm Brother Eugene Telford, one of the CEOs of the New Africa Network. And the New Africa Network was a broadcast that was founded back in 2019 at the African Union meeting that was held in Washington, D.C. During October 19th, 2019. And we came together with all sorts of brothers and sisters from all over the African diaspora, including the continent of Africa, where we came together to discuss many of our issues. And today we have one of our dynamic guests as part of that types of discussions that we were having, speaking about psychology and the pressure that we African people endure everyday life. And being part of a very dynamic group of people who have experienced such tragedies that we've had, and that has to do with what is also coined as a psychological experience that we people have that are former slaves and former colonized nations by some of the Babylonians, and which we all know what the coin term Babylonian means to us. It means that we have been oppressed by certain groups of people who have stagnated our growth throughout the centuries. And so we don't have to get into really big discussion about that. We all know who Babylon is. But certainly post-traumatic slave and colonization syndrome. And Dr. Alli and I have had conversations about this in the past. And, it's something that we've also discussed whether or not it's some genetic atrocities that we've carried, from being a part of this. And not to say that it's something bad, but in our DNA, certain traumatic events could be passed down. And Dr. Alli, that's what I have a question for you, brother. I know with your background in psychology, you are a doctor of psychologist. You're also a political activist and a part of the Revolutionary Party of the Black Panthers, and also the new preferential government of the Republic of New Africa. And as a clinical psychologist, can you say that there has been certain traumatic events that our people have experienced in the past, which may be something that we need to discuss more on a health issue type of, like you see our people very angry at times for no reason at all. And then you see our young brothers and sisters out there, they tend to take out severe violence acts towards each other. And sometimes this is no apparent reason needed to be brought on, but we're also faced with the dynamics of white supremacy that could be of a psychological hindrance and bearing to us, as well as we are competing in a work environment, trying to compete economically as well. Would you say that some of this is certainly an issue that we can say could be a part of our Reparations Act, with the obtaining psychological health treatment as a part of this restitution as well? And I'll yield the mic and let you speak there.
I appreciate you, dear brother Eugene. Those of you who don't know him, he's a very strong revolutionary warrior brother, and very modest but very strong brother. I appreciate him. So to answer your question, good brother, here's the thing. Definitely everything that we're experiencing today has to do with the psychological atrocities waged against us in our Holocaust. To get to the part of the reparations and restitution aspect, again, we just have to go over what we went through. We were human snatched from our original lands and habitats. People came in and bum rushed and snatched us up. They snatched up babies and women and elders and fathers and mothers and put us in the hells and holes of shit. And rape and abuse was our daily diet for the black man and black woman. Many don't even get too far into really understanding. It was a everybody thing. Nobody was off limits, and it's documented. And then when those ships would reach shores, they would take black women pregnant by the rape that they put in her womb, hang her upside down, torture her, mutilate her womb, the baby falling out. They would then sometimes use a big, type of rock or brick, or let the baby's head bust asunder, or crush the baby head with their boot heel or some type of firearm butt, rifle butt, and basically, let her just bleed out. Take a black man, the biggest one they could find, sizing us up, and emasculate him, blood pouring over his face, making mud puddles with the actual soil underneath his body. And any of us who were ooh and ah will be hurt, beaten, and injured. I'm getting to a point over this traumatic sight, right? Then they would take horses and tie one to the left foot, one to the right foot, the left hand, the right hand, sometimes the neck, sometimes for the black woman, her breast, and sometimes for the black man, his reproductive organ, and then beat or shoot the horse's oxen or large animal and have them run in opposite direction and split open the black life. And sometimes the black woman was pregnant. And anyone who would ooh and ah would be, told to shut up, you get the same thing, or injure us in the same way. And then while they're torturing us in these different ways, mostly in seasoning camps to condition us, right? To socially engineer us, right? To impose this trauma on us, right? They would, then force us into behavior, walk like this, talk like this, act like this, socially engineering us into what they call a nigger. So getting back to that question, the transgenerational trauma, it is actually empirical that 33% of the genetic markers, 33% of the markers in trauma is genetic, right? And not only that, when it comes down to it, again, PTSD has now been proven to be transgenerational. Trauma has been proven to be transgenerational, intergenerational, up to 14 generations, and it affects us in every way. Let's think about it like this. Okay, when the Emancipation Proclamation, all these other things are put into fruition, an attempt was made. 40 acres and a mule was a very good thing, right? So an attempt was made, but they took all that back. They snatched it up, and they never gave us reparations. They gave the former slaveholders that land plus reparations to pay them back for losing us as slaves. That's a deep topic for another time. Dr. King also talked about that and said the
Right.
March on Washington, the final one, the occupying of Washington now, what he said, no more civil rights but human rights. He said, they wrote us a check that has come marked back insufficient funds, it's bounced, and we getting ready to get reparations. And they took him off, killed him, assassinated him. Malcolm talked the same thing, took him out when he started talking about it. But to get to the point, yes, according to international law, when mentioning genocide, it's not just the physical death and act against the people. It's also to harm them mentally, to have once done it or to continue to do it. And we suffer both ways, from them once doing it and them continuing to doing it. And I diagnosed the traumatic Black African Holocaust, the difference between that and the post-slavery syndrome is the fact that it's dealing with intergenerational trauma. And I deduced that we have corollaries, and it is a spectrum. TBAD is a spectrum, that we have over 80 corollaries. And one of them is what I diagnosed as the traumatic Black obtrusive paranoid personality disorder. And I'm going to tell you, give you a point of that real quick, and then I'm going to finish this. Say you driving in your car, you ain't did nothing to nobody. All of a sudden, a police car pulls up behind you. You shaking, you may even be sweating. One patient I had, not to violate no HIPAA laws, but just not putting her name out there, she told me she would have a panic attack when police officers, because this is quantitative, what I'm talking about, empirical, right? And my deduction of this, right? And you haven't done anything, but it's insane. It's not sane to have these particular anxieties or maladies or issues because a cop car pulled up behind you or you got pulled over. Everything's right. You have no warrants, nothing. You have committed a crime before in your life, but we have these issues. So yes, reparations is highly important, and restitution due to the mental maladies we have. We were put off the plantation and given no therapy. We were given nothing to help us. So what we did as a people, the problems we got, the genocide and the fratricide and black on black crime, broken black house, slavery was so long ago. But the transgenerational traditions that we got from that ain't so long ago. We just keep repeating the cycle over and over again, and there's no change. We walk in the name of Jenkins, Johnson, all these different names of the people who oppress us, and we're still walking off of those traditions. We're not even walking in African names with it. Some of us who are, it's still the atrocities of that. So yes, we
Right.
need
Right.
restitution and reparations for our mental Holocaust.
Wow.
Thank you so much. Yeah, very good. Yeah, I know his name is Eugene, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Right.
definitely.
But I got my African name too. They call me Obe Wane. So hey, Black Power to you.
Black Power, brother Obi.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to call us, which we can't be, racist, but when truth be told, I mean that's another topic for another time. Who was the indigenous people in what they call Britain and the UK and all those places today? They weren't pale people, but that's another topic for I ain't even touching that. So where did
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
language
For
come from?
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where
For
that
sure.
language came from. But
Yeah,
Yeah. For
so
leave
sure.
that alone for right
yeah,
now.
And that's something that we have to have deeper discussion about as well, because when you talk about when the Moors lost to the Europeans, most
Yes.
of our ancestors occupied large territories in
Yeah.
Europe, and
Yeah.
they were very prominent figures in Europe before all this racist stuff started.
Yeah.
So you get into the Middle Ages, around the ages of 12th and 13th century. You would know that. Much of those places, even like Jerusalem and in Palestine, it was occupied by African people.
Yeah.
But the dynamics of how history has taught us has psychologically failed us. And there's things that work on us. They really did a number on our people throughout the years, out the centuries, and certainly that should be a part of our restitution discussion when we talk about reparations as well. Factoring in that our people do need psychological healing, and that should be a part of our restitution as well. But yeah, Dr. Ali, we certainly appreciate you coming on the New Africa Network. And I know, Brother Money, we're getting here into the time towards the end of the program.
Yeah.
And overall, out of all your achievements that you've have accomplished out the years, and you've been a dynamic leader, and certainly being a major part of keeping the Black Panther movement going in our day and time. And tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do personally outside when you're just taking off from being Dr. Ali? What are some of the things that you like to do and enjoy in your more private times?
Well, I'm a father. I have over 21 children. I'm a family man.
Wow.
Yeah, so I
That's
enjoy my
impressive.
family, number one. The other things I like to do, I like to read, I like to write. Most don't know I've been painting and drawing since I was like 7 years old. So I
Get out of
paint,
here.
yeah, paint, draw,
So
poetry.
what type of stuff you paint and draw, when you in your free time? Like
Well,
what type of artistic is it various?
Well, it is, but mostly I'm like a more attention to detail type artist. So I do, people, nature, nothing abstract.
Mm-hmm.
But I can do abstract, but
Right,
and
right.
most of it is African centered. And the interesting part is my children, most of them can draw and paint too. I taught them, but some of them have the best talents and some of them are developing their talent. But that's what I do. Paint, draw,
Yeah,
poetry,
man. Definitely.
family.
We'd like to see your collection one day as
Yeah,
well, That'd be certainly really nice.
absolutely. I definitely would love to share it with you all. Definitely.
Now, you say your mother is Ethiopian. Your mother is Ethiopian, and your father is U.S. Caribbean.
Yeah.
Uh, how's that for you coming up as a child uh, in your experience culturally? I know you experienced both cultures. From your Ethiopian side is very different from your Caribbean, your U.S. and your Caribbean side. How was that coming up as a kid?
Well, whenever you're a person that's exposed to multiculturalism, it's like it could be something of detriment to you or something that is of value to you. So for me, it was a value. I was raised actually age 2 to 12 in the Bahamas,
Mhm.
and then coming to America. And so as far as the multiculturalism, it was a good thing because both of my parents were revolutionaries. So it wasn't like this. How would I say, imposing one culture over the other. I was exposed to various dynamics. I was exposed to Caribbean culture, Afro-Caribbean culture, Afro or African of American culture or Black of America culture. Instead of saying African American, you know what I mean, New African culture.
Right,
And
right.
then of course Ethiopian culture. So my grandmother would introduced me on how to make, injera and all the great, foods that we eat in Ethiopia and the Misr and, all the great foods that we have there. And I, would learn a lot of my culture from that part of my family that way. But then my other, grandparents and would teach me about, Caribbean culture. So it's like, for me, it was good. It was just being diversified. And I think it
Right.
really helped me in how I guess how I move and how I operate throughout life, able to just be exposed to multicultural, and that's real multiculturalism. People call, and I mean, I ain't gonna talk about nobody. I was gonna say what they call it. They're gonna say I'm being biased, so I'm gonna leave it alone. But that's real multicultural when you're exposed to
Yeah,
different.
yeah, for sure. And like you being Caribbean and Ethiopian, both share very similar cultures.
Yeah.
When you talk about the food, man, I can imagine what you guys' food look like when you sit down, when your family get together, man. You'll probably have some astonishing food.
Yeah.
And certainly would like to be there one day, kind of taste some of that good cooking right there, brother.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for real. But definitely, coming from both cultures, you have to, on the Caribbean side, you got spicy jerk chicken, that kind of stuff. And then, you get on over to the Ethiopian side and, you have the bread that has a vinegar bread or something like
Yeah.
that, man. And you mix that in and all with but mostly on both sides have a very good diet,
Yeah.
and I can see, just by looking at you, brother, you look very healthy. Your skin is clear and everything. You definitely have a good diet, and that's a part of the Caribbean, especially with the spices and so forth. That's what we get to talk about a little bit too. Is like the foods and the culture combined together. Although we get get a little heavy sometime and really discuss some of the things, getting into politics and economics and you name it. That's certainly what we're here for as New Africans. And as a part of that alliance, we certainly appreciate you, brother, coming on to the program tonight. Anything you would like to tell our viewers and listeners how they can get in touch with you and
Yeah.
get connected and stuff like that to you? Because we definitely like to share that while we're speaking on this type of function and engagements.
Absolutely. What I'm gonna do is let me see if I could put my YouTube channel link into the comments, and I'm gonna put that there. Can you hear me?
Yes, I
Yeah,
hear you.
yeah.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
good. Okay, so let me see if it is my you. Let me look. I'm looking for my YouTube channel. So I can be reached on YouTube. Here it is. I got the link because it's gonna take me forever if I had to click on something. I'd have clicked off of here. So let me put the link in the comments. And I ask everybody to actually subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please subscribe to it. I'm gonna put it in the comments. It says join the chat. Can I join the chat?
I don't
Which
know.
Yeah,
one?
it says chat with everyone. Okay. Oh, is that only in the studio?
Possibly. I don't even know where you are. Are you? Yeah, I got that. Okay, I got your. Okay, yeah, you can join the chat. Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I can definitely post that for you.
Yeah, so for everybody to reach me, that's my YouTube. So please subscribe. I ask everybody to please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Dr. Ali Muhammad MD. That's the name of the YouTube channel, but please subscribe to it.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna post the link.
Okay.
The other way to reach me, you can reach me on IG at Dr. Which is DR, D is in Derek, R is in Robert, underscore ALLI, that's two L's and an I, A Alpha, L Lima, I, Injera. So that's Dr. DR underscore ALLI underscore Muhammad, MUHAMMAD. That's
Mm-hmm.
Dr. underscore Ali underscore Muhammad. That's IG. You can reach me on Facebook at Ali, ALLI, first name, middle name O, last name MUHAMMAD. So Ali O
Mm-hmm.
Muhammad, and you'll see a picture of me and Baba Hugh P. Newton, rest in peace and rest in power, on probably on both platforms. That's how you identify that that's my actual page. So Ali O Muhammad on Facebook, Ali underscore I'm sorry, Dr. underscore Ali underscore Muhammad on IG. And on Twitter, I think it's X. It's at Dr. Ali Muhammad. So those are the ways to, and I'm on Threads too. You can reach Threads through IG. Those are the ways to reach me. Yeah, that is my my Facebook page. So you can actually get that link and go to my Facebook page. I ask everybody again, please subscribe to, my YouTube page. I'm sorry, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I ask everybody too. It's gonna be a lot of great dynamic, more things coming up on there. Please subscribe to it, and I appreciate y'all.
Nice, nice.
Yeah,
One of the
so
things. Go ahead, brother.
yeah, I put everything on here so everyone can see even the Telegram things you talk about is
Good.
on screen here. So if
Right.
anyone may be interested, this is Instagram, Facebook,
Yeah.
Twitter, all of that is here. I put up a YouTube account. I found them.
Very good. Very, very good. Very good.
Yeah. So, anyways, I think our time is moving. We haven't even scratched anything here, but I would like I would like to ask you few things. One is where we are going to.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is your plan in the future as the Black Panther Chief in Command?
Plan in the future. Well, the Revolutionary Black Panther Party, our overall mission, ideology, and philosophy is what I coin as lone collectivism. And what that is us feeding, clothing, sheltering, training, and defending the people. So that's the 5 principles. I call it the 5 principles of life. That's so that we could bring into existence a higher end of that, which is the people self-sufficient with unlimited resources, feeding, clothing, sheltering, training, and defending self. So our goal and objective is to establish a self-sufficiency for our people, where we can come out of this dynamic of being a codependent people on a system. And even we don't want the people codependent on us as a party. We want self-sufficiency. So we serve the community, food, clothes, shelter, training. That training involves, like, we have programs that deal with financial literacy, GED programs, CNA programs for nurses, CDL programs for people who drive trucks, or who want to do that, construction, construction, and also carpentry and things of that nature that we offer for self-sufficiency sake and purposes. So our goal and objective forward on is for our people to be self-sufficient. So self-sufficient, and our theme has always been not only self-sufficient, but ultimately having a nation of our own. And now the PG, is, I'm back it's back a part of my heart and dynamic of focus. So that deals with our nation state, but that's where we're going, a nation of our own and the self-sufficiency of our people, but our people's self-sufficiency first.
Okay, so that is those are the basic things. And in the beginning, you say you are coming to Ethiopia. You have a program. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Absolutely, yes. So the International Pan-African Unity Conference, basically, it's like this. A major part of those 22 points is the 22 points for the Ethiopian chapter. Like, Dharma Mosiah Gabi taught us that we in Africa, and we're not directly on the continent, even if we are on the continent. He says, don't just come and don't be empty-handed. So one of the major things we're having the chapter there was basically to assure that some of the issues that we have on the continent can be rectified. There was a time prior to COVID when I was coming to sit down, in contact was made with some of the leaders on each side with the Oromo and the Tigray and these different things going on to bring about this unity. So a part of the whole point of the International Pan-African Unity and Development Conference also came from mellowing out these warring tribalism that we have, which we know we didn't manufacture. We know that our petty differences have been exploited by foreign powers. So it's really, the chapter is really, of course, designed first on the same principles: to feed, clothe, shelter, train, and defend the people of Ethiopia, and also to help about another way of self-sufficiency. Even though Ethiopia has many areas of self-sufficiency, but the abundance coming with that as we get past and get rid of the exploiters of our land in that area. So the chapter is involved to bring the same principles and to bring into fruition the same principles in Ethiopia, especially going into rural communities where there may be, unfortunately right now, limited resources, but providing food, clothes, and just different things that are needed. And also the threshold of those points and the International Pan-African Unity and Development Conference, which is going to be Friday, May the 24th through Sunday, May 26, 2024. And again, as I talk about those points, the key theme: uniting the countries of Africa. That's a intention and an objection for the unity of all African countries and an international monetary system. In my opinion, the Afri is a cool name or good name, a name that identifies us, but can be anything that is collectively determined. Because I do believe in a democratic way of doing things as well. Scientific African democratic socialism, stricter trade rules to prevent foreign exploitation of African countries. Again, the United States of all Africa with embassies throughout. Reparations from all colonizers, slave traders, and even the new exploiters like China and other parts of Europe and the U.S. We can't leave the U.S. out. And United States of all African military and intelligence agent apparatus and border patrols, to protect our areas, from people who may not have our best interests. Genocide tribunals against nations involved in our Holocaust and the African Holocaust invasion, unity amongst the warring tribe, children's rights, women's rights, again, environmental health rights, hygiene initiatives for our environment, environmental hygiene initiatives, trash removal, health and food programs, African centers of education in our rural communities, development of Africa and rural communities with running water and electricity throughout, and jobs, again, as I spoke of earlier, with a national minimum wage on the continent that equals to 19 US dollars and 21 euros, workers' rights and insurance and health benefits, free health care, housing, and dual citizenship and repatriation for Africans in the diaspora who choose to. And a ban on sexism and a ban on tribalism and the bigotry we may even have religiously and spiritually, and a visa-free system for the African diaspora and other Africans, and some other great stuff. But that's just some of the dynamics of the whole importance of the work that the chapter gears towards, and my relevance of coming over in May, and what we stand on. But the international and national mission of the Revolutionary Panther Party is to feed, clothe, shelter, train, and defend the people and community.
All right.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Eugene.
certainly. Yeah, we certainly can partner up with you on some of that activity as well, as far as you donating goods and products for the cause. I know you probably ship a lot of food and necessary products over as a part of that program. And we've been doing that ourselves over the last couple of years, working with the Meseret Humanitarian Organization there, which oversee Ethiopian orphanages, and as well as women who have become disenfranchised. And yeah, we'd like to get with you off the record to really discuss what we can do to partner up. We get plenty of donations come in all year long here, because what we do is, as a part of our key Swahili program that we have in Ethiopia, we also help provide certain groups, nonprofit groups, with very needed supplies and stuff like school supplies, food, you name it. If that's something we can partner with you on, we certainly like to get engaged with you on that off the record here. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead, brother Money.
Yes. So first of all, I want to just say thank you so much for you guys. The hard work you do every day is, as everyone will know, is very risky to do that. But our liberation is more important than our lives. I was reading the history of Malcolm X, how he was given to a position in the Ghanaian government to be the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ghana. And then he said, no, he refused. He said, I want to fight for my people. He looked more, he could have earned money, he could have make money from that, but he said, no, I don't want that. I want to fight for my people. I want my people to be at least educated at some level. And then he went back to America, and he did not have money like he could have in his pocket, but he was able to influence a lot of people. That's why you are here, and I'm here too. So now I have a couple questions. Me personally, I believe that Pan-Africa is a failing movement. It's absolutely a failing movement. It hasn't done what is supposed to be done. In fact, as you've been mentioning, Marcos Messiah Garvey, he was able to do a lot of things compared to what we can do today or what we are doing today. And back in those days, there was no money. I read his biography as well very closely. He actually did not even have money to go back from England to Jamaica, so he had to beg his own sister to get there. But he done a lot of things. He was able to establish more chapters in places he have not went to. He was able to organize Black people. He was able to get a lot of fundings, Black Star, shipping, and all of that in terms of industry. So he done a lot of things, but which we are not doing today. Despite that, we have a lot of billionaires and millionaires in Black people. We have a lot of technology. As you can see, you can talk now. You can send me text message in less than 10 seconds. The message will come to me. But we're not doing better than back in those days. So what are you planning to do as a Pan-Africanist, at least to change, to make Pan-Africa work for Black people? What is your, at least one or two things?
Okay, well, the first thing is, some may not think this is empirical, but it is. The first thing is political education, educating us in the continuity of Pan-Africanism, because the reason why, it, in many ways, it's not, well, one of the main reasons why is because the awareness of it is gone. And our oppressors have done a great job at trying to change our focus. Our focus is on other things. We're not even trying to be Africans. We're too busy trying to be entertainers or following the music or the entertainment or Americans or Europeans or whatever it is that we think is more some in this weird colonized mentality and slave mentality way more valuable. So the first thing is education, to keep educating and re-educating the masses on Pan-Africanism. Political education is very important. The second dynamic is to continue a focus on collective Africanism in trade and collective Africanism when it comes to politics and things of that nature. That's the second way. Those two things will get us right: education, trade, and politics, because the trade is going to come in with economics and all of that. But the point is that those two things, I feel, is a very important thing, because you don't have the education on what it is, the continuity of that, then we don't have anything. Anybody could say Pan-Africanism and they'd be like, yes, this is Pan-Africanism. China's coming to invest in Africa and it's going to give us jobs. That's Pan-African. That ain't Pan-Africanism. You could say whatever, but once you understand and you're educated on what Pan-Africanism is, then that is great. And like you said, we have many teachers. I know Marcus Messiah Garvey being the global popular person who popularized it, and then Malcolm X coming in, different dynamics of that line, Kwame Ture and Kwame Nkrumah and all the other fathers that we have in Pan-Africanism. But again, those two first, I feel, should be the most important things.
So you think that the education is possibly the key to revival, or to make to get Pan-Africa to work?
Yeah, absolutely.
Me personally, I don't know. I was thinking in different other way. Naturally, human being, we operate in two concepts. One is reward and punishment, which means that absolutely, that's my opinion, though.
Yeah.
So reward and punishment. Someone who betray his own people should be punished.
Yeah.
And someone who does protect and do good for his own people should be rewarded. Yes. What do you think about that?
I believe in that, but I'm going to tell you, if we're not educated, we may harm each other with that too. So I'll explain it. Now, many people, and I don't want to say this to be controversial, many people who believe in the Derg, when they came in there and they tried to call himself overturn his imperial majesty, they thought that they believed the propaganda, that his imperial majesty was actually doing something wrong, which he was not. It was propaganda. So the education stops it. If we're politically educated to know what Pan-Africanism is and what the enemies of Pan-Africanism does, that they spread propaganda, lies, deceit, and trickery, try to take down our leaders, just like they did with Kwame Nkrumah when he went to Conakry. They had a coup set up, and the people believed the lies, like they do with Mugabe all the time, like they do with Idi Amin, the things that they do to our people. So I believe in punishment as well, especially as a psychologist. That's how we also, but not in the, when it comes to children, not in that way, but I'm just saying you have positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement. But I believe in reward and punishment, but I also believe that we have to be empirically educated on, because a lot of people have been accused of things they didn't do. Like, let's think of the Honorable Malcolm Garvey, for example. They said he was, we use the term scammer today. He was a scammer. He was scamming people with the Black Star Line. They lied. You know, that's what they said. He was a scammer. He was a womanizer. He was exploiting women. He went from one Amy to the next Amy. She was the bridemaid and the wedding, and now he left the other one and went to the other one who helped him build it. Now he went with the next one. That's their claim. They said he was an agent. And it was what's his name who was responsible for saying that? Du Bois? Yeah, said he was an agent, and they documented and said Garvey was an agent. And so what do you do when these things are said? You want to implement punishment. So we got to be educated first, still, to be able to implement that punishment. Same thing with Huey P. Newton. They said that Robert Huey P. Newton stole money from the party. He was a womanizer, an abuser, a drug addict, all kind of things they said about him. They said it's about all of our leaders, you know. And the character, same thing with Idi Amin. They say he ate people. You know, they say all kind of different things. So we have to be clear and educated first. That's why I keep talking about the slave mentality and colonial mentality, because the reverse of that is our healing and us being educated. We got to get our Pan-African mind together. Then we can implement some punishment. But too often, this is why we end up in war. Imagine what happened in Rwanda, which is in our recent times. You know, of course, it was like over 30 years ago. We're talking about with the Hutu and the Tutsi. They thought they was implementing, you know, reward and punishment. They said, you know, to cut the tall trees down and the cockroach. You know, they said all these different things. But the enemies and the exploiters were responsible for the problems that was in Rwanda. They created this class of the Tutsi and Hutu. They created a class between them. And that class began to clash. And they made it where if you looked a certain kind of way, you were Tutsi. You look a certain kind of way, you were Tutsi. But these were the same people. And so they made a class out of it. My point, not to digress, is the fact that we got to be educated. Because every time we have these skirmishes on the continent even, we think it's punishment and reward. In America, we think it's punishment and reward. What you think all these so-called gangsters are doing with the BDs and the GDs and all, they think it's punishment and reward. No. Education first, and then we could punish those who need to be punished. I believe in punishment and reward, but I believe we got to know who's the enemy. And I yield on that one.
Yeah, okay, very good. Yeah, me personally, I believe that because you cannot say that, for instance, Du Bois you're talking about,
Yes.
He knew he was doing wrong,
Yes.
because he was paid to do that. So
yes, he was the agent.
Yeah, and eventually he was even put inside the United Nations, and you know, a lot of position he took. And not only him, even his friends as well are Mortons, and I have read all of that. You know, I'm working on the book, Pan-Africanist book. So so I think you talk about education. Some people maybe do something wrong to their own people. That will deserve to be punished by not knowing. Few of them, but most of people who have betraying us, like someone who shoot Tupac you were talking about, we should punish those people. I don't think there's any need of education. Or most of our traitors do not need education, because they already know it's wrong. You killed Thomas Sankara and you want education? I don't think so. Me, I think that we gotta go straight. Like punishment is punishment, reward is reward. You know.
Yeah, I don't mean it that way. What I mean is that the people who are implementing the punishment must be educated, not the people who betrayed us. I'm saying we must know if we're really being betrayed. Because what if somebody is actually waging propaganda, like with Donald Malcolm Garvey, right? So the one claimant agent was the agent. You got people who do this all the time. You got people who got entire YouTube channels set up where they call legitimate leaders agents and operatives, and they'll put their whole business out there. Put they, if they got government names, put that out there. Put their address out there. Try to find relationships they had or make up the propaganda. So you got people out here who do this right now. This is not new. So the point is that we need to be able to identify whether that person is as such. And once we identify whether they have betrayed us, then yeah, we got to deal with it. So I'm saying the punishers have to be educated to be able to identify if it's really real or not. Because many of our leaders was called to be, like again, Huey was called an agent. The brother who made, the great Baba Elder who made Kwanzaa, who was the actual first minister of culture for the RNA, was called an agent.
Maulana,
Malcolm X was called an agent.
I know that.
Yeah, and Marcus Mosiah Garvey. So I'm saying the punishers got to be educated, not the people who betrayed us. We gotta, if they betrayed us, in self-defense of the people, they need their hair chopped off. I mean, I'm down with that. So I'm not talking about
that. So yeah, you got it chopped off. So even now, for instance, there is so many YouTube accounts that is there to promote propaganda on Dr. Umar Johnson. I don't know if you ever watched that, but I watch those YouTubes. There is people who put at least every day 2 videos to just like do such thing like that. So unless, because people will fear, that's why you guys have self-defense. People will fear to do harm to us once we start retaliation. Let me tell you the truth. They genocide us in Congo, Belgians, and nothing happened. They get away with it. When they did the same thing to Namibia, Harare people, nothing happened. You were talking about Rwanda. If you look careful, you will see also there's some there is involvement of non-African there, but let leave that alone. They destroyed Somalia, nothing happened. They destroyed Libya, nothing happened. So they killed, they destroyed Marcos Garvey, and Du Bois and his boys, they still running around with this NAACP, and no one is saying anything. They are the one who actually prosecuted him, and there is no retaliation, nothing. And of course there was other FBI behind it, but they use the front Negroes face to do that. Now they did that to Malcolm X. No one say anything. They assassinate Martin Luther King. So as much as they keep doing that, and we don't retaliate, we don't punish those who are doing it from our side. First, and this is trash movies they are producing, trash music. If we don't punish those people, there's no way you can talk about Pan-Africanism. There's no way we will be, our dignity will not be restored until when we start to punish people who are doing wrong, who are betraying us, who are portraying our culture and changing to something different that is perverted. White people, sometimes I understand them. Do you know how much they hate black people in America now, white people? Because we are destroying everything. We are destroying humanity, by the way. So sometimes you need to understand that we are paid by white people to destroy humanity, but the blame comes on us, black people, So I think we must establish this kind of system to be able to locate people who are destroying not only us, black people, but also destroying the humanity in general, because we gotta exist anyways, regardless whether we like or not. We need to allocate those people, and we need to figure out how we can handle them on as African people. White people, they will take care of themselves. Now, we also need to reward people who sacrifice for themselves, people who have left everything. It is very shocking that we don't honor them. We just keep saying our ancestors. We keep saying, no, that's not honoring people. That is, you need to do something for them. You need to check how their family is doing. What's going on with the family of Dr. Khalid Muhammad? What is going on with the family of, for instance, like Louis Farrakhan? I'm not a fan of him because he's religious. Me, I stay away from religions. But he been attacked on and on. There is no retaliation. No one is saying anything. People can lie on him or his name, and you say it's propaganda, of course, but we don't come after people who are doing that. We should stop them. That's my opinion.
No, I agree with you 1,000,000,000% that anybody that's an enemy against our people need that. And I'm one who personally believe that heads need to be chopped off for attacking our leaders. I believe that. I mean, as a person myself who's been, my son, rest in peace, rest in power, 4 years old, died by medical murder in this country. And the whole time I was basically um, fighting for his life, people was doing that to me. They made like 20, 30 videos, just all kind of propaganda and craziness by agents and operatives, especially who was kicked out and things like that, and just stuff that was just made the hell up wasn't even true, right? And so the thing about it is that it's also, if you do that to me when nothing's going on, I laugh at it, because I know if you stand up for the people, just know what's coming. You're gonna have haters, you're gonna have liars, you're gonna have propaganda, you got people saying all kind of things. It kind of almost could be like Michael Jackson when he said Billie Jean is not my lover, she's just a friend. You got people saying maybe they didn't had a baby. You have all kind of crazies come out the way, and just straight up agents and operatives. And the trick that agents do is say, when they start off, to take the heat off of them and make you defensive, but they say you're the agent. That's how they do it. But getting back to the point, so I personally know about that. I was poisoned in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in a coma for 2 weeks by agents and operatives who put poison in my food and tried to get me killed. Not only that, I was also almost set up to get shot by the police. So I had went there because I did a armed activity in Wilmington, North Carolina, for a mother whose son had got shot 30 times by the police. Brandon Smith is his name. And everybody backed away from her. All the activists ran and left and turned coat on her. And she reached out to me to help. And I said, I absolutely will help you. And so when they found that I was coming, the district attorney there, the sheriff, and the police said if we came on, that we were going to jail. So ABC and other news agencies contacted me down there, and I told them, I said, yes, we're coming. And we're going to exercise the right that we have to bear arms and all this stuff. So instead of my primary focus also being on her, now we had two focuses. Now we had to come against them for targeting us and trying to, chill our rights. So I was giving a press conference, a news conference. Here's the trick they did. See, I don't know that city. I had somebody in charge there. And what Fox News did is they put their microphone on the third step to the federal courthouse. I said, we're going to the DA's office. That's where we're going. But they set up there. So that was like a setup. So we're there, we're armed, we're strong. And next thing you know, a whole contingency of pigs come this way, that way. And so this is video and recording documented. So I'm mad as hell. I get out, I said, what are y'all doing? And like, you're all in violation, so-and-so, you're armed on the courthouse step. But what they didn't know is that the lawyers also told me that the only way we can sue them for the gun thing is if they illegally got a hold of our guns. So they played themselves. So it got to this thing to where there's going to be diplomacy now. You know what I'm saying? So now in this diplomatic thing, because ain't nobody firing no shots. Like they fired on us in self-defense, we have to fire back. Now this is diplomacy. Okay, you have enemies there, just like in military law. How you deal with that? What you do? So the proper thing was done. So it was like, you're in violation, so and so. That actually is a crime. Then it is for real. We weren't supposed to be there, but the news set that up. And people from there should have known better, because I'm not from there. I'm thinking we had the DA office. They didn't even have it where it's just that noticeable. That was slick of them. Slick move to them. So the lieutenant comes over and he's like, you all are in violation. You can look up Black Panther Party, Wilmington, North Carolina. You can see the video. You all in violation, so and so and so. And they just start cussing them off. So I said, we don't take no orders from you, pig. F you, pig. And they asked me, they say, what to do? I said, here's what we're going to do. I said, your long rifles, it's fine. You can put those on the courthouse step. This is not the first time in Panther history. You go back to the 60s, we had these issues. When we came from the courthouse, when we went to that time in California, and people got, caught up and hemmed up. When we went down the street, the police went after our guns and took guns from us. So that ain't no, but they didn't take nothing from us. So they so when they start talking, I said, yeah, your long arms, put them down. Your side arms, keep them on. And this one person put this big long coat, ugly looking gun down, and we found out what the deal with that was, right? So anyways, they start talking. So they want me to sign off on the paperwork, talking about, sign this, Dr. Muhammad. You all, get these guns. We want to do this for safekeeping. I said, I'm not, signing nothing. And they was like, talking, but this is a trick. So I said, first of all, I'm not from here. I said, but I have someone in charge here. I said, what is the context of this? I said, this is wrong, what y'all doing. And then they said that for us to put them down and they'll be escorted to the vehicle. But that wasn't the case. So this is 3 scenarios we had. Okay, wasn't no gunfight. If they fired on us, we were gonna fire back and kill everything in goddamn sight. And I repeat that. I don't play them kind of games, and that was gonna go down. And that's why nobody could ever tell you when I was in the battlefield or in a field that could be hostile, why ever anybody under my command who's for real will tell you that I go straight to it. I don't play them kind of games. So if it came down to a gunfight, it was going to be a gunfight. If it came down to diplomatic where people can go home with their families and nobody's doing that, then we're going to show up with diplomacy. We were physically outnumbered, but that don't mean anything. They fired shot as bullet for bullet, but this wasn't that kind of scenario. It didn't involve that. Even according to military science and military code, soldiers all over the world go through that when they're surrounded with what is the strategical diplomatic thing to do for people to go home safe to their family. So those were put there on the steps. They eventually said, he turned red. He said, they said they want the guns. I said, who want the guns? He told me my boss. I said, who is your boss? He says, the sheriff. I said, well, let me talk to him right now. He said, and it's not him. I said, it's the FBI, huh? Then he got real quiet, but all this is documented and recorded. So then the rifles went in and that person put that pistol down. We found out later why. So anyways, as that happened, Fox News is snickering, the other agencies are snickering. They'd be like, so Dr. Muhammad, now that the police have all y'all guns, what y'all gonna do? I said, I don't have all our guns. I said, we got truckloads of guns. We're gonna continue. And I'll send you the video of how we continued that day. But we was live and they said nothing like that's ever happened in the history of Wilmington, they told me. And everybody came out and it was powerful. And I was doing a International Human Rights Tribunal that those briefs were submitted to International Criminal Court and World Court for genocide at that particular time for adding Brandon Smith to that. Because that's what those armed marches was for. We didn't all march in vain. We armed march as a show of strength that, yeah, we're going to fight for rights, but you're not going to beat us and throw no water holes or dog or none of that's going to bite us. We're going to shoot the dog and the dog who sucked them on us if you come with that foolishness. That's what that's always all about. Then the Human Rights Tribunal International is the other side of dealing with that, because you can only save life when life is being threatened. If I see somebody putting a person of African descent or human life in imminent threat or danger, I will use force to save that life. And I don't care if the criminal was wearing a badge or not, I'll lay them down in self-defense if they're committing harm in life and violating their life and committing that crime and imminent threat and danger. So I don't play that kind of situation. But when somebody's gone, all you could do is the process. And that's what those tribunals are about, not to digress. So next thing you know, when it comes time to get the guns, they acting funny. The person that said it took one person who signed a document to get the gun and get it, they saying everybody got to bring their ID. They didn't know that I was going to put a lawyer on the phone. I was like, what you talking about? I said, that's not what they said. So I put a lawyer on the phone. And the lawyer said, you're not going to violate the law to give them their guns. You're going to give them all their guns now. And so the pig on that end, he was like, hey, I'm going to call the DA and I'll call you back. So we got all the guns back. When we getting the guns back, next thing you know, and this is embarrassing and foolishness, the gun that person put down was a stolen gun from Milwaukee, Wisconsin that was connected to 2 bodies. So that's the other part of that. And so I was supposed to sign that, but it don't stop there. Then I went to Milwaukee, Wisconsin to actually do a hearing in the Panther Party, because you're talking about punishment and reward for some punishment and reward. Went there. I ended up staying there because they was saying, oh, Chief, the chapter's in such a bad condition. And, I'm staying there trying to get things in order, but not knowing how many operatives really was in the ranks. And so one night, there's an Arab, a lot of the Arabs in that area had these corner stores that they sell liquor and stuff, and they had people selling drugs. So there's one shop owner, there was murders done in front of his place. And so I gave him a warning. I told him, if this keeps up, I'm shutting you down. And so, and I'm not one to just, be on TV playing, on a video playing no games. I'm telling them that because I mean that. So I did a press conference and said, we heading there. And so something told me, say, change your vehicle. I said, huh? So I drive differently. Me and the Minister of Internal Security and my security team was ahead. Next thing you know, my vehicle is surrounded by plainclothes police, one with a scully, one with a gun, saying when he do it, they recording and they asking for me, looking for me. And then they like, Chief, don't come. They're looking for you. And so I still came. I still pulled up right there. It's just that how what they was on. So they had to cite the car for loitering. And of course, that means the shopkeeper had to be the one involved. So this man goes to court and he cries and he says that they told him that when I came, they was going to do seriously body harm to me or kill me when I showed up. So that was a setup. Then following after that, I was poisoned by somebody putting poison in my food, and I was in a coma for 2 weeks. And then, you know, the stuff don't stop there. So there's traitors everywhere, and some of us are direct. And this goes back further. Then around 2016, our leader in St. Louis, Missouri, this happened in 2017. He had came amongst us because he was one of the organizers for the Ferguson uprising for Mike Brown. And, you know, he came and joined, and he was a great brother. You know, he was first in the U.S. military, then he joined us. With them, he had a Purple Heart and all that stuff. And I ain't trying to brag about them. I'm talking about him, how good of a brother he was. And he was a law student who at that time had a BS degree and was in graduate school. General Hudari Jelani, also known as our brother Angelo Brown. Rest in peace, rest in power. So, you know, as a general leader in RPP, you're supposed to not be alone out there in the field. So they know how to infiltrate us and get us. We're talking about traitors again. So the only way to get him weakened was some lady came that he just met. He didn't know, you know, but that they know our profile, how to get to us. So he's over her house. Next thing you know, we get a message that he's dead. The message that he's dead, the paper tried to be slick and said drunk man killed, you know, just making stuff up. And so they told all kind of lies. They said they got a call from a lady saying a man was belligerent, and, you know, and they came out there, and when they didn't knock on the door, that our general opened fire on them. And so they just shot back. This is a person who was seasoned in the military, who knows how to shoot. If he would have opened fire on them, they would have been dead, because he didn't play them kind of games. So I said, that don't sound like him. And he's not even like that. He is a great heart. He's a benevolent person. He don't roll like that. And he's not no drunkard. So when we get the full information, they took him behind the building and shot him in his head. They assassinated him back there. And it was through this girl situation. So us dealing with all of that. And so my point is that a lot of this happened to do with a lot of those international briefs and overseas and International Criminal Court and World Court, where they start coming hard on a lot of us, and especially our prominent generals. So my point is that I've lost people close to me. He was like my spiritual son. He was a son to me. And so I've lost people close to me. I've been myself poisoned by enemies and operatives, continue propagandized against, character assassination, physical assassination. Couldn't even stand by my son in a coma without the stuff going on. So I'm one who knows that punishment is definitely important, but I'm still one who knows it's bigger than me. It's bigger than individuals. It's about the collective. I still say that we cannot implement punishment unless the punishers are educated on who is really doing the stuff, because things may look like they look and they may not be the case, because that's what COINTELPRO was about. COINTELPRO was about them, and it still continues, making people look like they weren't. People thought Geronimo G. Jaga Pratt was an agent. So they isolated him from everybody, locked him up, and all this time, you know, they thinking he's an agent, and he was not. They thought, like I said, Huey P. Newton was an agent. So why they thinking he's an agent? What if people say we're going to punish you for being this agent? And they killed him. So that's the point why the punishers got to be educated. It's just like, for example, I don't give them no credit, but one thing I say about the U.S. System, as they try to present it, you consider innocent until proven guilty, right? So even the ones we think are against us, they behind us innocent until we prove them guilty too. If we're going to implement punishment, we can't be judge, jury, and executioner. We still got to deal with the process in a way that we know who is for real and who's not. International law says that too, that we innocent and we must be treated as a person before the law, before anything comes against us. But I believe in punishment and reward, and if you are guilty, I believe in chopping your head off. I don't believe in you doing time. No time for you. I believe in the Winnie Mandela formula. Put a tire around your head and put some gasoline in it and set your ass on fire. So that's what I believe in. I believe in off with your head, lynching you, hanging you up, shooting you 30 times in your body. I believe in all of that. Cutting your leg, cutting your left leg on, leaving your right leg on, cutting your left. I believe in all of that now. I believe in taking your mouth and stabbing you in the throat and putting some alcohol down and setting you on fire. If we talking about punishment, I believe in punishment, but I do not believe that it should be reckless. I believe that we must be educated and to prove guilt and then punish. Not know this stuff. I got receipts, boo-boo. No, we're not talking about no social media stuff. We're talking about empirical facts that you're guilty. And if you're guilty, off with your head.
Right, right. You know, we often talk about that on the New African Network, as been some of our discussions that we've had in the past about how, as we grow as a nation, a independent nation, but also understanding that there are going to be certain criminal activity that take place with that, but it's also dysfunctional and mental health issues that could be involved as well. But then sometimes it could just be straight out just just some stupid stuff that our people get on sometime. How do we go about punishing and or even just reprimanding people who have engaged in such principles? Our ancestors, before we were mixed up with the colonizers, they had their own ways of dealing with internal and external affairs. And of course, being on code, as we talk about the preferential government of the New African Republic, these measures are being put into place where we have judiciary council that is able to see and review, but also act as a counterintelligence system on its own, being able to go in and investigate certain activities that take place among our African people, our Black people, and then come up with the necessary measure through a council that is able to determine what is the next measure to be taken. So when we have these individuals on like Dr. Alli, Muhammad, these people who are very conscious and very aware of what's needed to bring ourselves back into what we consider Afrocentricity, Afrocentric, the traditional ways of life that our ancestors lived. And we're not saying that all societies are perfect, but there have to be certain conductive measures that are put into place which uphold the law and protect the people in which a nation of people are a part of. And as we're doing this, these are conscious things that we all must continue to talk about and discuss. We talk about leveling up as people. I know sometimes these issues are very hard to digest, but they're very important to us as leveling up as an African and people moving back into a way of life of independence outside the colonizers' ways. And not saying that the colonizers' ways all are bad, and some that we must take in consideration as we're growing as a people. All measures are taken on to be responsible, but we must hold ourselves accountable for the activities that take place in our societies, and those individuals that could be a harm to us as a collective group of people. There are measures that are put into place by laws and laws that are conducted and which are upheld by the people. And so with this, we say a big Black power. Brother Monty, I'll yield the mic and give it back to you, brother. And if there's anything else we need to get into discussion with before the evening close come to that time.
Yes, so yeah, I think I need to close. It's already in the morning here. I mean, 4 or something, but so I need to close the program. I think I will have to bring him back in because there is other things I did not touch at all. So I will definitely have to bring him back in. Special, I didn't talk about language, Kiswahili. That's my favorite area. I did not talk about that. I did not talk about the foundings. When it comes to the money, how the Black Panther operates, and the resources, or how you allocate resources. So there is a lot of topics I did not touch at all. And how people can join the Black Panther. Why don't you have a lot of people? You have big number of Black people in America, globally, in fact. Why is not that many people who are member of Black Panther, and things like that? How to strategize that and to make it the money you talk about, the money backed by God, how that can happen, and military things. So all those things, we will discuss them in next episode. I think today we're gonna have to end here. I don't know if there is any last thing you would like to talk about.
Yeah, what I'd like to do is, now that you bring up funding, I'm gonna actually put I don't know if we have people, because I know in certain international circles there's no way to reach Cash App, but if anybody wanted to contribute and donate a monetary contribution, that's our actual Cash App. That helps us offset some of the things that we do, but we are self-sufficient in how we serve the people, and we do it collectively. But that's the Cash App. If anybody wants to donate, please do. It's RBPP National HQ1 at Cash App. That's RBPP, as in Revolutionary Panther Party, National HQ1, and it's Cash App. So that's how they can help if they would like to do so.
Okay, yeah. So I think that being said, I do appreciate your insights. You bring us a lot of background, which we will go over maybe next program.
Yeah.
We'll go in deep a little bit. And Brother Eugene, if you have anything to say at the last, I will definitely come to you, and then I will give him mic to close the program.
And I want to tell you before you finish, I appreciate you. You are definitely a warrior. I mean, people don't know it's 2 a.m. in the morning there, and you riding all the way to 4. So you're a warrior. You're a tirelessly warrior, one who, real warriors are like that. We up all night. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you for your questions. I appreciate you for the way that you think and strategize, and I appreciate you for that question because. That's our problem. We have a lot of people we let off the hook. You know how many times I cringe when I hear them talk about leaders and talk about things. I'm like, they shouldn't be able to do it. And there was a time when we acted swift where we didn't allow it to happen, but the government knew we was doing that, and so they created fake things where real leaders will be considered agents, and they wasn't. So we'll be killing real leaders. Think we implementing punishment, but I appreciate you, really, I really do, and I'll be. I can't wait till we speak again. Revolutionary love, all power to the people, Black power and Pan-African power, Pan-Africanism. And I'm still here if there's any more questions.
All power to the people. All power to the people. Well, certainly we like to read off our African creed. And this is our International African Creed. I am an African, regardless of where I was born, where I live, my ethnicity, my religion. Africa is my identity. God bless Africa. I am an African. Al Kepulon. One love.
One love. Thank you so much, Brother Eugene. Thank you so much, Dr. Khalid Muhammad from New Black Panther Party, which is a political and self-defense movement, which a lot of our audience who sees and who will see this knows possibly about Black Panther movie. The Black Panther movie was actually it took the name from the really movement, really people who actually sacrificed their lives for this movement. It was also among the successful movement back in days, back in the 80s and 70s, which was it was successful, not compared to Marcos Garvey movement, UNIA, but to the extent Black Panther movement was successful. Why? Because it was able to provide food for a lot of children. It was able to do a lot of social work, actually, to keep community together, but also to defend Black people when people need defense to be protected. The Black Panther were there, and it was also, of course, destroyed so many. Often a lot of people were assassinated from that. There was what they call counter-terror with Gay Hoover, who was the head of to try to destroy Black Panther, and he was actually almost successful. But we don't end. So Black people, we never end. We always we scramble, but we get up. So I believe that this is the time maybe to revive or to bring back to life Black Panther, not only Black Panther, but also Black people movement, because we are going down and down and down. So our culture has been destroyed, our identity has been destroyed, our history and our heroes and so on has been destroyed. So we definitely have to get up. And now psychologically we are disorganized and spiritually confused. And physically we are divided. So I think this is the time we don't have any more down to go. That's what I'm trying to say. So pretty much we do appreciate for Black Panther Party trying to push again and see if anything's going to happen. And we will try our best to do what we can do while we're still alive. When we pass away, which each one of us will do, then it will be the end of it. So our service will be finished. Yeah. So that being said, I want to appreciate each one of you guys who are listening to us. We always live on Saturday, 6 p.m. in the East time, which is 2 in the morning in Eastern African time, which is Ethiopian or Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, and so on. We also we like to call each one of you to join us on Swahili for Africa YouTube channel, which is a movement trying to make sure that at least where it is 50 Black people, we should have Kiswahili school or Kiswahili class, which will also be a place where we can teach all these Pan-African things we are talking about. So that being said, that concludes our program for today. God bless Africa and God bless all her children, the leaders of all Africa, anywhere we are. We need unity, and that is our shield. Thank you so much and have a nice weekend. I will see you on next one.
Appreciate you all.
All right.
በጃን ጂካሪስ እና በቱሳንት ሎቬቸር እዚህን ሶስት ዋና ዋና
Messiah and truth.
የአምጣ አካልን እነዚህ ሶስት ነገሮች መጠን
One of you to stand up first. In the memory of Jean-Jacques Dessalines and Toussaint Louverture, in the memory of Nat Turner, in the memory of Henry Sylvester Williams, in the memory of Muhammad Duse Ali, in the memory of Marcos Messiah Garvey, only one who was able to organize Black people globally, in the memory of Patrice Emery Lumumba, in the memory of Huey P. Newton, in the memory of Martin Luther King Jr., in the memory of Thomas Isidore Noel Sankara, in the memory of Malcolm X, in the memory of Dr. Francis Kwame Nkrumah, the High Priest of Pan-Africa, in the memory of Fred Hampton, in the memory of Stephen Biko, in the memory of Dr. John Henry Clark, in the memory of President Ahmed Sekou Toure, in the memory of Dr. Ben Yusuf Chanan, in the memory of Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, in the memory of Dr. Runoko Rashid, in the memory of Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, the memory of Winnie Mandizekela Mandela, in the memory of Stephen Cochrane, in the memory of Kwame Ture, in the memory of Professor Tony Martin, in the memory of Dr. John Joseph Pombe Magufuli, in memory of Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who established Black History Month in 1926, in memory of those who did not make to the list, I greet you all.